never expected to return to Ember Hall so soon. The memory of the glowing corridors, the soft heat rising from the crystal floors, and the three alien women who had trusted him lingered in his mind every night. He thought it would be years before he stepped through those doors again, but the universe rarely followed human plans. The message came early in the morning when he was half awake on the shuttle bound for the colony station. A warm orange symbol appeared on his communicator, an emblem he recognized instantly. It belonged to the shimmering, heat-forged women who lived in the heart of the Ember Hall. The message was short, only 7 words. Human, Ember Hall needs you urgently. There was no explanation, no details, not even a greeting, but those 7 words carried something heavy fear. They were a calm, disciplined people. If they were reaching out to a human across light years, something was deeply wrong. Changed course the same moment. Now, as the shuttle descended through the misty atmosphere he felt a mix of anxiety and responsibility pressing down on his chest. He didn't know what awaited him, but he remembered what happened the last time he was here. He had saved a collapsing energy conduit in one of their sacred chambers, something the still talked about with quiet awe, but never felt like a hero. He had only acted because someone was in danger. That was simply what humans did. When the metal doors opened, a strong wave of heat washed over him, the same familiar warmth he remembered. The landing bay glowed with soft amber light, and the air shimmered gently like sunbeams reflected on water. 3 tall figures waited for him. Their skin shone like moving liquid crystal, reflecting the heat around them in bright orange patterns. Recognized them instantly. The tallest, who always carried herself like a guardian. Saren, whose calm voice had guided him through the last crisis. And the youngest, who often watched him with quiet wonder. But today all 3 looked tense. Stepped forward first. Human, she said, her voice steady but touched by something heavy. You honor us by coming so quickly. Walked closer. You said you needed me urgently. What happened? The aliens exchanged a glance, as if deciding how much to reveal. Finally Saren spoke. The core that keeps Ember Hall alive, it is weakening again. Felt a strange tug inside his chest. Last time the had nearly broken apart. He had helped stabilize it by accident, simply by staying calm in the midst of chaos. The had told him that humans had a unique emotional pattern, grounded, unpredictable, strong in moments of crisis. They reacted to feelings, and human feelings seemed to balance it in a way nothing else could. But if it was failing again, that meant something deeper was wrong. Why me? Asked softly. This time stepped forward. Her voice trembled slightly. Because the listens to you. When you are near it, the chamber quiets, the energy settles. We cannot explain it, but we have tested it. You bring stability. Wasn't sure what to say. He had never imagined his emotions could matter to an ancient alien structure. But looking at their faces, faces carved with silent worry, he knew turning away was impossible. Take me there, he said. The 3 women bowed, a gesture not of formality, but of genuine relief. They guided him through the glowing corridors. Every step reminded of his first visit, the soft hum under his feet, the warm air swirling around him, the walls alive with shifting light. But something was different now. The lights flickered faintly, like a candle fighting against wind. Saren spoke quietly as they walked. The hall feels fear, our fear, and as it reflects our emotions, it grows unstable. What about mine? Asked. She looked at him with clear eyes. Yours brings calm, that is why we called you. You are our balance. Felt a mix of pressure and purpose rising inside him. A human balancing an alien heart. It sounded impossible, but he was here now. And Ember Hall was waiting, followed the women deeper into Ember Hall. The corridors widened and shimmered as though alive, walls flowing with soft orange light like molten rivers frozen in time. He felt the warmth embrace him, but now it carried a strange tension, a quiet hum of something unsteady beneath the calm surface. Finally, they reached the crystal sauna, a circular chamber with a pool of liquid light at its center. Steam floated gently from the pool, twisting in the air like silver ribbons. The walls reflected every movement, multiplying the three alien women and him into dozens of glowing figures. Had never seen anything so beautiful, but beauty never felt so fragile. "This chamber is more than relaxation," said, her voice calm but serious. "It reacts to emotion. Fear, hope, and courage, all of it flows through the crystals. That is why we need you here." Looked at the softly glowing pool. It was mesmerizing but also alive somehow, pulsing with a rhythm he could almost feel in his chest. He swallowed. "I don't understand. How can I help?" Saren stepped closer, her crystal-like eyes reflecting the warm light. "When the begins to fail, all chambers linked to it feel the imbalance. You stabilize it by remaining calm. The sauna's energy senses your emotional pattern. You are part of the flow." His heart thudded. He had never considered himself important, not in his own world, not in this one either. But the truth was written in the women's expressions. They trusted him, and Ember Hall's survival depended in part on his human presence. He took a deep breath and stepped closer to the pool. Steam brushed his face like a warm whisper, and the air itself felt heavier with expectation. The women joined him, standing around the pool in a circle. Their hands hovered just above the surface, letting light swirl around them. Suddenly, a tremor shook the chamber. The warm glow flickered, and the surface of the pool rippled violently, as though the water sensed fear for the first time. Stumbled slightly, gripping the edge for balance. They exchanged worried glances. "This is the sign," whispered, her voice trembling with both awe and concern. "The sends its unease through the chambers. It reacts to us." Nodded, feeling a strange connection to the pulsing light. He realized that he didn't need to act with force or strategy. He only needed to be calm. He closed his eyes, inhaled slowly, and let himself feel a quiet sense of safety. He remembered his mother's voice on Earth, telling him to stay steady when life felt impossible. He clung to that memory. The pool began to respond. The ripples softened, the flickering light steadied, and the tension in the room eased. The women gasped softly. His tall frame relaxed slightly, shoulders dropping. Saren's calm aura seemed to deepen, and even who had been trembling stood taller. But the calm didn't last. A sharp pulse surged from the center of the pool, brushing against his chest like a wave of energy. The walls shimmered violently, and the steam twisted into sharp shapes, almost like lightning caught in the air. The chamber vibrated, humming with a warning tone that sent chills down his spine. Opened his eyes. The pool had cracked slightly at its center, glowing red like a warning flare. "We must not panic," said, stepping closer. Her voice was steady, though her hands flexed as if holding herself back from fear. "Your calm will balance it, but you cannot do it alone." His chest tightened. "Then we stay together," he said, voice low but certain. "We face it together." The three nodded, placing their hands gently on the edges of the pool. Light swirled beneath their fingers, did the same. He felt a connection he couldn't explain, a thread linking human steadiness with alien energy. The pool pulsed in response, slower now, more evenly. Steam floated around them in soft, golden spirals, no longer chaotic. Realized that he wasn't just visiting Ember Hall anymore. He was part of it. His presence, his emotions, his calm, these were the keys to healing what no alien could fix alone. The women smiled faintly, their trust tangible. Exhaled, a mix of relief and determination flooding him. The chamber glowed steadily now, like a heart finally at rest. And yet, somewhere deep within the pulsing light, knew there was only beginning to test him. The crystal sauna now felt alive in a way had never imagined. The soft hum of the walls, the gentle glow of the pool, and the heat swirling around him. It all pulsed with a strange energy, almost like the heartbeat of Ember Hall itself. He could feel it in his chest, a rhythm that matched his own. The women remained at his sides, their hands lightly touching the pool's edge. towering form radiated authority, yet her eyes betrayed a hint of worry. Saren stood calm as ever but noticed the subtle tightening of her fingers. The youngest watched him closely, her wide eyes reflecting both fear and hope. "The is responding," Saren said softly, "but it is unstable. Its energy trembles because our fear reaches it. You must focus, not on controlling it, but on grounding it." Nodded, inhaling deeply. He had learned this the hard way. Panicking would only make the pulse stronger, harsher. He closed his eyes, feeling the heat of the chamber, the weight of this trust, and the fragile energy of the... He imagined it like a living creature, afraid, confused, searching for balance. As he concentrated, the pool's surface pulsed irregularly, then flared with a sudden shock of light. Felt a wave of pressure push against him, a vibration so intense it rattled his bones. Steam spiraled around them, twisting into shapes that seemed almost alive. The three women gasped and even felt a flicker of fear, but he refused to let it take hold. "Stay with me," he whispered, his voice calm yet carrying strength. "We face this together." The women leaned closer, placing their hands firmly on the pool. Their warmth flowed through, a strange and comforting connection that filled the chamber. The light of the pool pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, slowly synchronizing. Steam curled around them in gentle spirals, no longer jagged or chaotic. But they had one more test. A deep crack ran across its surface, glowing red-hot, and the chamber shook violently. The walls flickered as if warning them that failure was imminent. Stepped in front of instinctively, shielding him, but he grabbed her arm. "No," he said firmly. "We face it together. You don't need to protect me. We balance it together." Saren's voice echoed softly, almost like music. "It senses unity. You are not alone." He took a steady breath. He pictured the warmth of Ember Hall, the trust of and the simple strength humans carried in crisis. He focused not on the threat, but on hope, connection, and courage. His steady pulse echoed through the chamber, and they began to respond. The crack began to fade, the red glow turning to warm amber. The pool's surface rippled gently, no longer violent. Steam rose in calm, slow spirals, and the walls shimmered softly. Opened his eyes. The women's faces reflected awe and relief. "It works," whispered. You're grounding it." Exhaled slowly, sweat running down his face, but a strange smile tugged at his lips. He had never imagined that his calm, his simple human presence, could stabilize something so vast and alien. Stepped beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Human, you have done what no could alone. You have steadied you have reminded it and us that balance can come from unexpected places." Felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the sauna. He looked at the three women, towering, glowing, alien, yet so deeply connected to him now, and realized that sometimes courage was simply showing up and holding steady when everything trembled around you. The pulsed softly now, as if sighing in relief. The chamber's glow was gentle, comforting, and alive, but no longer threatening. Knew this peace might be temporary. That was ancient and unpredictable, but for now, stability had returned. The women smiled faintly, a quiet mixture of pride and gratitude shining through their crystal-like features. Realized something that he had never felt before. He wasn't just a visitor here. He was part of Ember Hall now, a small human thread woven into the fabric of something much larger, more enduring, and far more beautiful than he had ever known. And as the sauna's warmth settled around him, felt the first spark of belonging, not to a planet or a race or a mission, but to a story far greater than himself. Could feel the warmth of the crystal sauna wrap around him like a protective cloak, yet beneath it, a tension lingered. The had calmed, but its pulse still carried unease, like a wounded creature that had not yet learned to trust. The women, Saren, and stood close, their hands lightly resting on the pool's edge, their expressions a mix of admiration and caution. "We cannot leave it here," said, her voice low but steady. "This energy may be calm now, but its core is fragile. We must bring you to the central chamber." nodded, his heart beating faster. He had been here before, helping stabilize a conduit, but nothing had prepared him for this level of responsibility. There was the life of Ember Hall itself, and its instability now seemed more dangerous than ever. The corridor to the core chamber shimmered in golden light, walls lined with living crystal that pulsed faintly with the heartbeat of the hall. Every step took felt heavy, not from weight, but from the awareness of the trust placed upon him. The women flanked him, their presence comforting yet charged with expectation. Saren spoke softly, her eyes glowing. The reacts to emotion, fear, hope, courage, it copies what it senses. If we show panic, it will amplify. You human have shown steadiness where we falter. That is why we brought you here. Swallowed hard. He had never thought of human emotions as powerful in the context of alien energy fields. On Earth, humans worried, panicked, and stumbled through life. But here, his simple human calm carried a weight that could not replicate. It was strange to be so small and yet so essential. When they reached the core chamber, froze. The floated at the center, suspended above a pedestal of shimmering crystal. It was larger than he remembered, its surface alive with energy, flickering between amber, red, and gold. Deep cracks ran across its surface, tiny fractures that pulsed like veins carrying a living heartbeat. Stepped forward, voice trembling. It knows we are here. It senses the instability in the hall, in us, in you. Stepped closer, his eyes locked on the floating. He could feel it before he touched it, a vibration, an almost imperceptible hum of emotion, echoing through the chamber. The women moved closer, forming a circle around him. Stay calm, instructed. It will test you. Exhaled, closing his eyes. He imagined the warmth of earth, the sound of rain falling on metal rooftops, and the quiet reassurance of someone he trusted. He focused not on fear or danger, but on balance, stability, and connection. His heartbeat slowed, then synchronized with the subtle rhythm of the. Suddenly, the pulsed violently. Light shot across the chamber and felt the surge press against him like a physical force. The floor vibrated, and tiny shards of crystal lifted into the air, floating gently before settling again. Steam rose from the walls, twisting into intricate patterns, almost alive, as if testing the air itself. The women gasped but did not flinch. Instead, they placed their hands on the floating edges of this pedestal, sending warmth and steadiness into the energy around them. Mirrored their movements, letting his calm, steady human presence flow into the stone. The pulse slowed, the cracks softened, and light radiated evenly from the. Felt the tension lift, like holding a breath too long and finally releasing it. The chamber hummed softly, no longer threatening, as though acknowledging that balance had been restored. He opened his eyes to see the women smiling, faint relief shining through their glowing features. His wide eyes reflected all. Saren's calm presence seemed stronger, more anchored. His towering figure leaned slightly toward him, admiration in her stance. "You have done something no could alone," said quietly. "You have reminded the hall that strength is not only power. It is steadiness, courage, and the human ability to face chaos without fear." Exhaled slowly, realizing something profound. He was not just a guest in Ember Hall. He was part of it. His presence, his emotions, his calm, they mattered in a way he had never imagined. The had tested him and he had passed. But somewhere deep within the chamber felt a lingering pulse, soft, almost imperceptible. That was steady, but it was not fully healed. Its next test might be greater. And he knew, without fear this time, that he would be ready. The core chamber was calm for only a moment. Had begun to feel a strange pride in his role, a human, small and fragile compared to the towering, yet now vital to the survival of Ember Hall. But pride is fragile, and there was not done testing him. Without warning, the light in the chamber shifted. Warm amber tones flashed violently into red, pulsing like a warning heartbeat. The quivered, its surface flickering as though the fractures within it were alive and growing. Felt the vibration in his chest before he saw it, an urgent, pounding energy that made the air itself tremble. "Brace yourself," warned, her voice steady but carrying urgency. "It senses everything now, our fear, our hope, our doubt. And it senses your mind more than anything." Swallowed hard. He had felt its energy before, but now it was sharper, heavier, almost aware of him as a separate being. He stepped closer, placing both hands lightly on the pedestal beneath the crystal's warmth surged instantly, spreading through his palms and up his arms. His heart pounded, not with fear, but with a strange excitement. This was the moment where his human resilience truly mattered. The pulsed again, stronger this time. The chamber shook violently, and shards of crystal lifted into the air, floating and spinning. Steam swirled in chaotic patterns, catching the light and scattering it across the walls. Felt the first flicker of panic rise in him, the instinct to step back, but he forced it down. "No," he whispered to himself. "Stay steady, focus." He thought of simple, grounding things. The feel of grass under his feet, the laughter of his friends, the quiet night sky on Earth. He concentrated on calm, on balance, on holding the energy in check. The pressure pressed against his chest, yet he remained motionless, determined. Saren and leaned closer, each placing a hand on the pedestal. Their combined presence created a warmth that blended with focus. The pulsed again, but this time the pulses slowed, stabilizing slightly under their combined influence. A sudden surge of energy flared outward, brighter than anything before. His knees buckled slightly, but he held his ground. The seemed almost alive, testing his very core. For a moment he could feel its fear, its confusion, and even its curiosity. He realized that there was not merely a crystal, it was a sentient force, capable of reacting to the tiniest fluctuation in emotion. "Do not falter," shouted, her voice barely audible over the hum. "It's responding to you, stay calm." Closed his eyes, letting every ounce of doubt fall away. He became aware of the women's energy merging with his own, a harmonious flow of alien and human strength. The room's vibration lessened slightly. The crystal shards drifted downward gently. Steam curled in soft, ordered spirals. Slowly the surface began to glow steadily, amber light replacing the warning red. The cracks shimmered, then faded into faint gold. The chamber's warmth felt like a sigh of relief and could finally exhale. He opened his eyes to see the three women watching him, a mixture of awe and gratitude shining in their crystal-like features. His tall frame relaxed, Saren's calm radiated steadiness, and his wide eyes were full of wonder. "You have done more than stabilize it," said quietly, placing a hand on shoulder. "You have shown it balance, courage, and hope. What you did, only a human could do." Felt an unfamiliar pride, warm and grounding. For the first time he realized that being human, small, fragile, emotional, yet resilient, was not a weakness. Here it was his greatest strength. The glow softened, flowing gently through the chamber like a river of gold. Though exhausted, felt a quiet satisfaction. He had faced its test, survived, and even helped heal it. Ember Hall itself seemed to hum around him, alive and steady once more. And as he looked at the three women, he understood that he was no longer just a visitor. He was part of the story of Ember Hall now, a human thread woven into the heartbeat of an alien world, a reminder that courage and calm could shape even the most ancient, powerful forces of the galaxy. For the true test was not over yet, but for now there was steady, and that was enough to fill him with hope. The calm in the core chamber did not last long, had begun to feel a fleeting sense of triumph, but Ember Hall had one final lesson for him. The pulse gently, then suddenly flared in brilliant golden light, brighter than anything he had felt before. The air vibrated with energy and realized immediately. This was no ordinary fluctuation. There was sending a direct challenge. Stepped closer, her tall frame casting a protective shadow over. "It will test your mind as well as your heart," she said softly. "Do not underestimate this. It senses everything, your fear, your hope, your intent. It will not respond to half measures." Nodded, swallowing a lump of tension in his throat. He had faced the before, and each time it had grown stronger, testing his focus and emotional control. But this felt like the very essence of Ember Hall itself reaching into him, probing for weaknesses, demanding total trust. The chamber's walls shimmered violently, throwing scattered light across every crystal surface. The pulse quickened, and steam rose in chaotic spirals, almost as if the air itself were alive, twisting in anxiety. Could feel the energy pressing against him like a weight he could not see, and his instincts screamed to step back. "No," he whispered to himself. "You face it, you hold steady, you do not break." The women mirrored his stance, placing their hands on the pedestal and closing their eyes, their own energy merging with his. Felt their warmth flow through him, strengthening his resolve. For the first time, he understood that this was not just a test of calm, it was a test of unity, of trust, and of courage. The pulsed sharply and felt himself lifted slightly, as if the chamber itself were alive and breathing him in. Images flashed in his mind, the hall's long history, the countless who had lived and died in its service, and the fragile balance that kept life flowing across this alien world. That was showing him everything, its fears, its hopes, its memories. He trembled, feeling the weight of it all, but then he remembered what had brought him here. The simple strength of humans, our ability to face uncertainty without surrendering to panic. He focused on that strength, grounding himself in something real and unchanging. The calm in his chest, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, the trust he had earned from the pulsed again, stronger, almost unbearably so. Steam coiled around him, twisting like living threads, and shards of crystal lifted and spun in the air. Felt the pressure like a physical push, but he did not falter. He let his calm flow outward, filling the chamber, merging with the energy of the three women. Slowly the flaring light softened. The pulse became rhythmic, steady, and even. The floating shards of crystal drifted gently to the floor, harmless and still. Steam rose in gentle spirals, casting golden reflections across the walls. Opened his eyes. The glowed warmly now, solid and alive but no longer threatening. Felt a strange sense of connection, like a cord linking him directly to the hall itself. It had accepted him, not just his calm but his courage, his humanity, and the trust he had shared with the women. His tall figure moved closer, a rare softness in her glowing eyes. "You have passed the final test," she said. "The recognizes balance because you embody it. Only a human could bring this level of calm and courage. You have reminded Ember Hall that strength is not only power but the heart to remain steady in chaos." His eyes shone, and Saren's calm presence seemed more anchored than ever. Felt exhaustion weigh down his limbs, but also an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. He had faced this deepest challenge, and he had held firm. For the first time, truly understood the unique power humans carried, the gift of emotional resilience that could steady even the most alien and ancient forces. He realized he was no longer just a visitor in Ember Hall. He was part of it, a human thread woven into the heartbeat of an alien world. And as the chamber hummed gently, no longer threatening, knew that the hall's energy, its life, and its future were in a better place than ever before. They had tested him fully, and it had chosen to trust him. The core chamber glowed softly, golden light reflecting off every crystal surface. Stood at the center, hands resting lightly on this pedestal. The pulse beneath his fingertips was steady now, rhythmic like a heartbeat that had finally found peace. He could feel Ember Hall itself breathing, alive and calm. Saren and stood close, their glowing forms serene yet radiant with admiration. For hours had faced the tests, its tremors, its surges, its probing of every fear and doubt he carried, and he had held steady. Now the energy that had once threatened to overwhelm him flowed gently, a testament to his perseverance and quiet courage. "You have done it," said, her deep voice carrying warmth. "Thee is whole once more. Your presence, your humanity brought it back to balance." Exhaled, feeling exhaustion and relief mix into something deeper, satisfaction and wonder. He had always thought of himself as ordinary, small, and fragile compared to the vast universe. But Ember Hall had shown him the truth. Sometimes, being human with all its emotions and resilience could shape the fate of worlds. Saren stepped forward, her calm eyes reflecting the golden glow of the chamber. Humans carry a strength we do not fully understand. Steadiness, courage, and the ability to face the unknown without panic. That is power. His voice trembled not with fear but with awe. You did what none of us could. You are part of Ember Hall now. Smiled faintly, a tired but genuine expression. I never imagined that just being calm could mean this much, he said softly. I thought I was small, insignificant, but maybe that's exactly why I could help. The three women shared a silent moment, their hands lightly brushing the pedestal, letting this gentle pulse resonate through them. Felt a connection unlike anything he had ever experienced. Human and alien, fragile and strong, intertwined in a harmony that transcended language, culture, or even species. His eyes softened. You have reminded us of something essential, she said. Power is not only in strength or ability, but in the heart that guides it. You have shown that humans carry a light that can steady even the most ancient forces. The pulsed one last time softly like a sigh of contentment. Felt it through his hands, through the warmth of the chamber, and through the quiet approval of the women. For the first time, he truly understood the depth of his own impact, not just here but across the hall, across Ember Hall's history, and perhaps across the galaxy itself. The steam swirled gently, golden and warm, rising to the ceiling and painting soft reflections on the crystal walls. Looked at the three women and for a brief moment, the difference between human and felt irrelevant. Trust, courage, and unity had become their language, and it had been enough. Stepped forward, her eyes shining. Will you stay?" she asked quietly. "Not just for now, but for Ember Hall." Looked around, feeling the weight of responsibility but also the quiet joy of belonging. He had come here as a stranger, an outsider, uncertain of his place. Now he was part of something greater, a story, a heartbeat, a living world that needed him as much as he had needed it. I will, said. His voice was steady, carrying a quiet certainty. I will stay, I'll help Ember Hall, and I'll be here when it needs me. The three women smiled, and for the first time noticed tears of relief and joy glimmering in their crystal-like eyes. They stepped closer, forming a circle around him, united in light, trust, and hope. The pulsed softly beneath their hands, and felt a warmth flow through him that went beyond energy. It was a recognition, a bond, a promise that humans and could face any challenge together. As the chamber glowed gently around them, realized something profound. Being human did not mean being weak. Being human meant carrying the courage to remain calm, the strength to face uncertainty, and the heart to build connections that even the most ancient forces could not ignore. And in that moment, knew that he had not only stabilized he had become part of something eternal. A human thread woven into the heartbeat of an alien world, a quiet, unshakable reminder that even the smallest presence could shape the fate of the galaxy. The core chamber shimmered, golden light settling over them like a blessing. Stood there, no longer just a visitor, no longer just human. He was part of Ember Hall. And Ember Hall would never be the same again.